So I've been using Anchor for over a year now, and it's one of the easiest ways to make a podcast. It's free, and there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership if you want to or wish to. And it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And if you want to make a podcast, you can go to anchor.fm to get started. And it is very easy to do to make a podcast on there. And you have unlimited data memory on there as well. I would recommend using Anchor to make a podcast. Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the Nvld Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the Nvld Project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes. And today I am very excited to announce that BetterHelp is now sponsoring this podcast. I have had 7 years of therapy, so I know it can help change your life if you not only let it, but work on the personal goals that you set with your therapist. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are the greatest asset. And special offering to listeners of Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. You can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/ I'll put in the link in the podcast description for you. That's BetterHelp, HELEP. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast. To access the testimonials, there are two ways. There's a testimonial page with the full quotes, and then there is a slideshow on the home page with excerpts of the longer ones and the short ones. On the last image of the testimonial quote with Julia's quote, you can click on it and it will take you to the testimonial page where it shows you all of them with the full quoted testimonials. I did it that way because I wanted it to be easier to read on the home page, since some of them were a little longer than a testimonial usually is. And then I wanted to make sure that you could see the whole testimonial on the testimonial page. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, you can email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com and I will try to show you how to access it. Thank you. Hope you're having a good weekend. Bye. Hi, I would like to announce that the next Facebook chat for people with NLD and other learning challenges will be on February 19th, which is the third Saturday of that month. And for those of you who are not familiar with this group, it is a safe space for you to talk about things that you may want to, and to have it be in a safe space that you can have people who support you with what you're talking about and be able to relate to it and listen to it. And it doesn't have to be about NLD or the other learning challenges that you might have, but it can be about that if you want it to be. So that's what that group is for. And then, so again, it's on February 19th, which is the third Saturday, and it's at 10 a.m. Pacific time zone, and it usually goes until about 11:30 Pacific time zone in the morning. So if you would like to attend that group, you could email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com, or you can go to Living with NLD on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and message me about it. Thanks. Hi, so today's topic will be about NLD and depression. Have you ever experienced depression while having NLD? Maybe you were depressed or still are a little because you lost a friend, family member, or a pet. Maybe you're tired of being misunderstood by society. Or maybe you are affected by the pandemic with financial things, or maybe also with the social things of not being able to be around as many people like your friends and your family. I have experienced depression several times in my life. I'll mention a few to help you not feel alone. The first time I felt depression was after I disclosed to my family about my childhood sexual abuse. This happened because the depression happened because unfortunately my family took sides of either believing me 100% or minimizing it to just show and tell. Also believing I had some fault to do with it. Of course, the latter was false because I had no idea what my cousin was doing to me other than what he told me. What makes this worse is that it has been a big elephant that no one has talked about in my family for about 13 years. The next time I experienced depression was when I left for college. I became so homesick that I started overeating to absorb my emotions. Once I stopped doing that, it didn't get easier because then I would start crying every time I would go for a run. I didn't care if others heard me crying. I just did it. It was a great way for me to release my emotions. But when I was done, sometimes it was hard to stop because I didn't have many friends in college. Once I discovered I had NLD, it was easier for me to survive college with my accommodations and to try to make friends. I recently found out about an app called Peers. I'll spell that out for you. P as in Paul, E as in elephant, another E as in elephant, R as in Rover, and S as in Sally. Peers helps you build social skills by role-playing in good and bad social situations. It also has homework assignments for you and self-tests. This role-playing is in video format, which I find very helpful because of my auditorial gift due to NLD. I wish I had that app in college. It would have really helped me out. Yes, I did have a few close friends, but that didn't happen until I started to be more open about myself and make an effort to learn more about them. It also helped so much when I had Truffles, my dog, up there with me. The most recent depression I have experienced has been from two things. One, losing someone who I thought was a friend, and being tired of having no solutions for my chronic migraine condition. Yes, I have gone over losing my friend, in quotes, but I do miss that friendship still sometimes because I don't do enough fun things in my life. I'll try to do that more in this new year. I'm trying to realize that I should be thankful for the prescriptions that are helpful instead of focusing so much on those that aren't helpful for my migraine condition. All right, enough about me. Here's an article from the Nvld Project titled Suicide and NLD by Deidre. Quote, again, the issue of suicide has popped up again on the media radar. Both Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain have managed to bring it to everyone's plate. And now we get to watch as social media spins out its version of, in quotes, thoughts and prayers in the form of, in quotes, reach out. Don't get me wrong, it's good advice, completely useless to someone who is currently flirting with killing themselves, but good advice. What happens, though, when you add nonverbal learning disability to the mix? Are we NLD superheroes more susceptible to suicide, as someone once suggested to me? To be honest, I don't know. All I can talk about is my own experience with suicide and suicidal ideation. If I'm going to be completely transparent here, and I must for the sake of this conversation, I have to admit that I have attempted suicide. Suicide by fate, I call it. As a teen who survived abuse and found herself unwanted by her family, my sister was my abuser. I felt tired of fighting to survive, tired of trying to reach out to my family again and again, being rejected, tired of trying to figure out how to live in this confusing world. I was tired down to my soul and just wanted to rest, end quote. That is from the article. And for me, I have thought of suicide before due to the aftermath of the sexual abuse, frustration with my migraine condition, and the con artist, but I've never acted on it. Since I've been doing this podcast, I realize that I do have a greater purpose to serve here on Earth, and more than I thought. I want to help others like me feel included, heard, understood, loved, and supported. I am so grateful for the changes that the podcast and others experienced in this past year because it has changed my life for the better. Thank you for providing feedback to me and helping me with this podcast. I truly appreciate my audience members, even if I don't know all of you. So here's another article from the Nvld Project that talks about meltdowns, and it's titled Mental Health, the Other Side of Having NLD by Gabriella, who is, quote, a social work professional working and living with NLD. She is passionate about social justice, community connection, and the human experience. Her journey with NLD was focused solely on her challenges and failures, but has now transformed into a lifelong experience of healing and self-acceptance. She is a project social ambassador for the Nvld Project, end quote. And again, if you haven't heard that term before, Project Social Ambassador, basically that person is writing blogs quarterly for the Nvld Project, and they get to pick the topic of the blog. And also they are help promoting the project in terms of what it does with the research of NLD and with helping support people with NLD and raising money for the Nvld Project. And they also occasionally get to be in some of the promotional videos for the project as well. Okay, so the quote from this article is, "I also see how these meltdowns have reminded me that I am human, have forced me to slow down and be intentional about self-care and to seek self-compassion. They keep me in touch with a raw and vulnerable part of experiencing life that most people work to disconnect. They make me who I am, and for that I am grateful. And for those that know this experience in an imminent way, know you are not alone." End quote. I have had many meltdowns due to NLD that have been related to styling my hair, vacuuming, challenges at work, or mistakes I've made. I've shared some of these on the podcast. It is important to know that it's okay to have meltdowns and that they are a part of life when you have NLD or other learning challenges. Also, it's helpful to have some support through these meltdowns because it can be difficult to experience by yourself. As I wrap up today, I would like to keep in mind, even neurodiverse people experience depression, but in different ways than neurotypicals do. Please answer this question: how do you cope with depression? And you can answer it if you don't have a learning challenge and you're neurotypical. You can answer the question on Spotify, YouTube, or my website, livingwithnld.com, or by emailing me at livingwithnld@gmail.com. That's more private for you. Hope you learned something new today and enjoyed this episode. Talk to you next Friday. As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for this podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast. It is called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. In conclusion, I would like to hear from my audience. If you know individuals with NLD that I could interview for this podcast, please email me at livingwithnld@gmail.com. What are you interested in learning about NLD? I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having it. I would like you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. Also see if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than it originally was. Thank you for listening today, and please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe to it. Thank you. Bye.